What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ryan, and this is the Thunder Channel on Nootropics. Thanks so much for being with me. Guys, the specials on product are the following. Some things changed. Number one, the Cortex stack. Well, first of all, epic pre-made stack. We want a stack that's just basically going to turn on everything. Motivation, mental energy, verbal fluency especially. Get a bottle of the Cortex Nootropic stack. Right now, coupon code is 5. F-I-V-E takes $5 off of the price. Go get a bottle. Go get two. Better deals, the Cortex double stack, which is 2 bottles of Cortex. They are $24 each. Get that at livecortex.com on the homepage. Listen, if you're brand new to nootropics, you have one major option that you really need to take advantage of, and that is getting the course Nootropics Ground Zero. It's a video course of me explaining how to use nootropics from the ground up. A lot of information, dense strategy in there. Get that at livecortex.com. If you're in 2-3 years but want to ascend to the masterclass, that's defined as the 6-year mark in taking nootropics, just get the Nootropics Masterclass. It's a little more advanced of a course than Ground Zero, obviously, but it is well worth it. Video course of yours truly. Get it at livecortex.com. Last couple things. If you're a guy that needs to raise test, proven, effective, science-based strategies for raising tests of the Viking Testosterone Protocol, you can find that at livecortex.com. And last couple things, if you're a business person that, look, you need productivity, you need energy, you want to feel like you did 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, where you just functioned awesomely. Basically, you want to get to the 180% functionality point. Either get the 1 month intensive, the 3.5 month intensive, or the 6 month intensive. These are hands-on biohacking consults, very, very results driven, where you work with me to achieve those outcomes. Get all that stuff at livecortex.com. So I want to talk about SELANK for a bit, and kind of some of the things that it is that it can do and how it might fit into somebody's experimentation roster. So SELANK, I always get those two confused. SELANK is basically a nootropic. On the Wikipedia page, it's actually considered a nootropic, but it's an anxiolytic peptide. It's a heptapeptide with like a super long sequence. SELANK comes in the most prominent administration of it now, right? The most popular is spray. And usually it's 200 micrograms per spray. You can get a 400 microgram per spray bottle on websites like Nootropics Source, but I like to stick with like the lower doses of things. This way you can start low and work your way up. I believe that is, one spray. So if you get a 200 micrograms per spray bottle, you just really have to spray a spray or two to get the result that you're looking for. I've read like a ton of papers on SELANK and what it's been able to do in a clinical environment. In animal models as well as in human beings. I've seen a lot of anecdotals on SELANK doing a wide range of really, really positive things for people, both in the nootropics community, some in the PSSD community, and then in my own experimentation with SELANK. I mean, I don't use it a whole lot, and I'll explain kind of how it makes me feel in a bit. But what I think is useful for people is a couple things. Number one, SELANK is used as essentially an antidepressant, right? But without much of the major negative side effects that typical classical SSRIs or SNRIs produce. It actually has antidepressant effects on depression, obviously, but anhedonia, which is really, really a complicated condition in which serotonin and dopamine do not fire the way that they're supposed to put it simply. To have something that in animal models, at least, and in the anecdotals out there, positively affects anhedonia with one singular chemical is pretty substantial. But the other interesting thing about SELANK is that across the board, what it seems to do is induce a balance of the monoamine neurotransmitters and the monoamine neurotransmitter receptor sites. Now, that doesn't mean if you have like a super deranged brain chemically from some drug or whatever, that a dose of SELANK is going to magically cure you. However, it does have some interesting papers behind it to back the idea that in certain situations it regulates neurotransmitters and their receptor sites. I'll point you to a study called Use of SELANK to Correct Measures of Integrated Brain Activity and biogenic amine levels in adult rats resulting from an antenatal hypoxia. That's essentially just a starvation of oxygen, where the critical relevant of the paper, let me see if I can get down to it, is the following. Biochemical studies established that single doses of SELANK produce significant changes in levels of noradrenaline, dopamine, serotonin, and their metabolites in the brains of Wistar rats, the durations of these changes being comparable with the durations of the action on the animal's behavior. Considering the involvement of biogenic amines in controlling adaptive processes, it can be suggested that the effects of SELANK on integrative brain activity in hypoxia-exposed animals are mediated by its influence on brain monoamine processes. Gromova et al. Formulated the concept of the reciprocal nature of the regulatory influences of the serotonergic and noradrenergic systems of the functional activity of the brain, whereby compensation of impairments in the behavior of animals with imbalance between activities of the brain monoaminergic systems could be obtained either by activation of one system or suppression of the activity of another. SELANK, with its differently directed influences on noradrenaline and serotonin levels in the brain of hypoxia-exposed rats, thus facilitates restoration of the normal balance of monoamine systems, which is accompanied by compensation of behavioral impairments resulting from the imbalance of the monoaminergic systems. Okay, so that's a long-winded way of saying that in this particular case, SELANK basically regulated the function of serotonin, dopamine, noradrenaline. And that's pretty powerful for one compound in a single dose to induce those type of changes. Shifting gears a little bit, just talking about its utility, I think that so far what I've seen in my consulting practice and then just kind of being in touch with biohackers around the world is that SELANK, aside from its effects on kind of depression via mediating serotonin, dopamine mainly, and noradrenaline, it has some interesting effects on the GABAergic system. I'll point you to a paper, and therefore has some pretty interesting effects on anxiety. I'll point you to a paper called SELANK Administration Affects the Expression of Some Genes Involved in GABAergic Neurotransmission, where basically, I won't read you like a whole bit of the paper, but it's essentially saying that taking SELANK changed a bunch of genes that were related to the GABA A receptor and its function. They don't propose an exact mechanism in this paper on what it's doing to GABA receptors, but I've researched it for a while, and what I've come to find is that like benzodiazepines, but unlike benzodiazepines and their negative effects, their side effects, it is allosterically modulating the GABA A receptor. That's ultimately what it's doing. Now, we really don't know what exactly it's doing. It's essentially just enhancing GABA A's ability to be inhibitory in the central nervous system, and that's powerful. It is unclear if someone can take SELANK semi-frequently, like 4 or 5 times a week, or if single dose administrations of it can produce profound effects for days after. That is the case for a lot of other nootropics. So it's sort of one of those things that folks have to experiment with. So, as far as experimenting with it, experiment with it, if you will, to tone down anxiety, because it's working on allosterically modifying GABA A receptors and kind of turning up that inhibitory central nervous system response. And then also, if you're keen to be a neurohacker and experiment, and you've got some sort of major derangement in brain chemistry, maybe experiment with SELANK on an initial basis just to sort of see how it affects you, and then somewhat ongoingly scaled upwards thereafter if you have a positive effect or neutral effect, because sometimes it might take time for some things to actually have a positive effect. If you have some sort of depression, anxiety disorder, obviously, and anything else that you have identified the cause of as deranged neurochemistry, particularly as it relates to serotonin, dopamine, and noradrenaline. So then I want to quick talk about my experience with it. I started fussing with SELANK like 4 years ago. I got like a vial of it, a small little intranasal vial of it. And since then, it's basically produced the same effects in me when I dose it. I do not dose it a whole lot because it's not the type of compound that acutely when I dose it, I want to work. I would rather just kind of chill and think and relax because that's essentially what it does to me. So I dose 200 micrograms of it. That's it, just a spray of it. And I kind of just, almost similar to like really, really high dose Noopept, I get a profoundly anxiolytic state that follows. It lasts like 3 or 4 hours in its majorly acute phase. And then in the ensuing 4 or 5 hours, I'm still just kind of generally relaxed. So I guess for me personally, it's good for reflecting, thinking about things that maybe I need to change my brain on. It's good for putting me in like a good mood, but I don't want to sit down and work. Although I feel like my brain is pretty balanced, there's somehow some sort of energy, I don't want to say like an energy deficiency, but it's just like that typical excitatory neurotransmitter energy that I use with nootropics or otherwise because I've set my baseline up or I wake up and drink coffee or whatever, is not where I'd like it to be for me to sit down and work, okay? So I hope that makes sense. SELANK is a pretty impressive compound. Just wanted to discuss it because folks ask me about it all the time. And I put it on my list like months ago, and finally it is here. Thanks so much for watching or being with me. Hey, listen, I got punched in the eye at the gym sparring with a dude. So my eye has just been roughed up for the last week. That's why we haven't done live streams. I'm sure you guys would understand, but I just didn't feel comfortable doing live streams. That thing has to heal. And but we're going to get back to them. Hopefully this week it's kind of getting better. And so we'll see. Yeah, I really just want to get back into doing Facebook live streams and YouTube live streams. They seem to provide a lot of utility for folks that can't catch me when they email me or catch me on previous live streams. Just ask questions, have me answer it. So look forward to that. Guys, in the meantime, remember Cortex Stack, powerful pre-made nootropic stack. I mean, take it for everything: energy, motivation, verbal fluency, the will to work, productive drive. Coupon code is 5 if you want a discount on a bottle of the Nootropic Stack Cortex. Get it at livecortex.com. If you want a better deal, get the Cortex Double Stack. It's 2 bottles of Cortex, but they're $24 each. If you're brand new to nootropics and just need to watch a video course to teach you the ropes and get you at a pretty pro level of understanding how to use them and get results, get Nootropics Ground Zero, video course, livecortex.com. If you want a more sophisticated video course that teaches you how to use nootropics at the master class, that's defined as the 6-year mark, get the Nootropics Masterclass. Both of those are video courses of yours truly. Guys that need to raise test, Viking Testosterone Protocol, find it at livecortex.com. And lastly, listen, if you're a business person, hard-charging entrepreneur, a person that needs to be productive, and you've got the budget, work with me for a month, work with me for 3.5 months, or work with me for 6 months to get your baseline to 180%. We facilitate incredible brain function in the people that we work with. That's what those consults are for. Oh man, so many experiments, so much enhancement of your mental energy, your performance in general. Plus we fix other issues that might be inhibiting it. Get all that stuff at livecortex.com. Thank you so much for being with me, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.